Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt, and on today's episode, we're talking another Oscar movie, The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro. So this movie has all of the awards hyped for everything. They have the most nominations. It's crazy. People have been talking about this film. It's nothing but good things. So I think I was probably a little overhyped for this movie. I wanted to go in to absolutely love it. And while I think this movie is an excellently made movie, I think it's beautiful. I think the score is amazing. The music in this film is off the hooks. The acting's great. The visual style of it is great. I did not love it. I really, really liked it. This is a movie set in the 50s, kind of in what I would like to call an alternate reality where, monsters exist. Kind of a creature from the Black Lagoon type character gets captured by the American government, and they're doing a whole bunch of tests on it. And it's kind of in this Cold War era in the 50s where the Russians are trying to get their hands on what the Americans have, and the Americans are trying to make sure that the Russians don't get what they have. So there is that kind of underlying fact that doesn't start playing into it until a little bit into the movie, because it really starts out with learning about Eliza, and she is a mute, basically a janitor for this place. Like, a whole bunch of women clean the place day in and day out. Now, she's an orphan who was left on the side of the river, or found on the side of the river, and she has these sort of scars right here. That people just assume is, her vocal cords are cut or something like that. She can't talk, so she signs everything. She has a couple of really great friends. She has her sort of roommate / neighbor, not 100% sure, I think it's just a neighbor, played by, what's his name? The guy who's in everything. Michael Stuhlbarg. He's in a million things this year. I think he's in 4 really great movies this year, which is crazy to be in that many. And then you have her friend that does all the cleaning with her, played by Octavia Spencer, Zelda, who was great in this movie. I think the standout acting performance is Michael Shannon. I think he is so great in this movie. I would literally watch him for hours just being this character, because it's so fascinating and so of its time of the 50s, and having this sort of just this problematic male character who just has power issues, and just he needs, it's a little scary, I'm not gonna lie. And for anybody else who does not know anything about this movie, which, I'm assuming you all should know about this movie, especially if you're clicking onto this, it is a love story between Eliza, this human mute character who falls in love with the creature from the Black Lagoon character, who is played by Doug Jones, who was kind of like Guillermo's he's like the, oh God, what's his name? Why do I always forget this guy's name? Andy Serkis of practical, makeup, real life, bodysuit monster things. I think when it comes down to it for Oscar nominations, I get why this was nominated for Best Picture. I think Best Score is a definite. I think Best Director, this is going to be kind of a career award for Guillermo, I believe. And then when it comes to acting, I think that Michael Shannon is well-deserved, and so far I think that he should win. I think that Sally Hawkins should probably get a nom, which I believe she did. Other than that, I don't really think that any other nominations are necessarily well-deserved, besides, of course, Best Makeup, stuff like that, the technical awards. For some reason, there is something in this movie that was just stopping me from getting completely hooked onto it. And it was funny, because in the middle of the movie, when there's this scene that you've seen a million times in a million different rom-coms, where Eliza gets kind of freaked out about love, and she gets away, and she's getting into her bed, and she kind of rethinks it, and she goes back, opens the door, and she lets herself in with this creature. And I was thinking in the movie theater, I'm like, this seems like it's moving really fast. And then I thought, well, if you replace the creature from the Black Lagoon with a stereotypical white guy in a rom-com movie, this is exactly how fast it would be going. So the only thing is this is a monster-type person, humanoid figure, with a human that's kind of throwing me off. And I kind of just, at that point, I was like, you know what, just let it go. Just try to see this as if this was a regular romance movie. And that was a little bit easier after that, but there were a couple scenes that really angered me The first scene that like really pissed me off was when they were doing the getaway, and then Michael Stuhlbarg's character was paying so much attention to the creature, which understandably so, runs into a car, and then the van that they're driving stalls. I hate tension building stuff like that. I absolutely hate it when a car hits something and then it automatically stalls. I hate it. I hate it. I think it's kind of a lazy story writing technique, in my opinion. The second scene that really ticked me off was, of course, the scene where Eliza fills up the bathroom with all of the water, and then a whole bunch of water is like coming down through the floor to the ceiling. They live above a movie theater, and it's just like, I am just thinking about all of the mold issues that this poor guy who owns this movie theater that's already struggling is going to have to deal with. Like, I feel so bad for him. And it's never referenced again. Like, they open and then all the water comes out, and it's just like, what? And I get it. We're in a fantasy world. Like, this stuff doesn't necessarily work the same way as it does in our world, but I genuinely I've dealt with mold. Like, I've lived in a place with mold, so I feel like that maybe affects me more. And I'm going to go into spoiler territory really quickly, so if you have not seen the film, or if you just don't plan on seeing the film, don't listen to this part. I feel like, because Eliza is a like half fish person, half human, right? That's kind of what I got from the end of this movie. I feel like I saw that from the beginning of the movie. Literally from the opening, where she's like floating in the water, and then it goes down to real life to where like she's just sleeping on the couch. I saw that and then she had the scars, and I'm like, those look like gills. And then there's the whole poster thing where they're under the water, and I'm like, I bet she can breathe underwater. And then she can't speak, and that's kind of how she has a connection with this creature that, like, in theory, like, no human would have a connection with, but apparently did so, because if Eliza's half human, half of this black creature from the Black Lagoon thing, then obviously somebody got it on with a fish monster. I don't know. I just saw it happening, and then, like, I think I would have preferred the movie if it would have been more like, if they wouldn't have ended up together in the end. Like, they were in love, but it was one of those loves that you just can't have. That type of thing, where maybe like she healed and then she had to go back up into the air, because then you're thinking like nobody knows if she actually survived anything. So like her friends are just like, well, she might be dead. And even though this is a whole voiceover of Michael Stuhlbarg's character kind of like thinking about what could have happened, I don't know. And also, I feel really bad for Michael Stuhlbarg's character, because in this whole movie, he's talking about, like, loneliness, and that Eliza's really the only person that he has, and now she's gone, and now he's just extra lonely. That saddens me more than, the happiness that I should be feeling for these two characters that found love. So while I think that this movie is stunning and it's beautifully made and it's very stylistic, I thought it was lacking a little bit in the story department. And that's something that's very, very important to me. Like, when I watch a movie, if the story isn't right, no matter how beautiful it looks, no matter how great the acting is, it does wane on me a little bit that way. I will say, anybody who loves film and loves great acting, I would send people to this film just for the style, and then also for Michael Shannon's performance. I love Michael Shannon in this. I really, really hope he wins for this, just because there was something so captivating, and for me, he saved the movie for me. I also really do hope that it wins Best Score, because the music was gorgeous in this film. Like, when it was first starting off, and it has this really beautiful score going into it, and everything's filled with water. It's just puts you into that world, even though I didn't stay into that world. But still, it's a very beautiful score. I think that it should win. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. I do believe it's probably going to win Best Director, unless somehow Jordan Peele pulls it out. I don't know exactly where the Oscar field is going this year, but Guillermo, it's a career Oscar. He's been working in this industry for 30 years now, and he's had Pan's Labyrinth. He's had a lot of stuff, a lot of great films, and I think they're going to give it to him. And also, he's so likable. Also, I will say the first thing that I said coming out of this movie is how happy I am that I never lived in the 50s, because the 50s looked like it sucked, and I am not somebody who would ever belong in that time period. I would probably be burned at the stake for everything that I think. And then also, it really disproves this whole good old times thing, like, oh, remember the good old days? I don't think there was ever good old days for everybody, just for, white males. But that's genuinely the first thing I said, is that I'm so glad I was not born in the 50s. But, the takeaway from this movie, I'm glad I saw it, because I've been wanting to see this for weeks and weeks now. And it's it is what it is. I still think in the end, Big Six still my favorite. I still love Lady Bird. I like those realistic type movies that feel like I could live them. And I love fantasy films. I love these things. This one for me just didn't quite grab me like I really, really wanted to. But I know there's a lot of people that absolutely love it, so don't necessarily take my word for it that I didn't enjoy this as much. I still think you should go see in the theater, mainly because I like the fact that these indie movies really get a push around this time, and when normally there'd be no chance for any of these movies to really be seen because of all of the big movies that comes out and overshadows it. So that's why I like the Oscars. It shows us movies that need to be seen, and a lot of them are fantastic. Look at Spotlight. That's such an amazing film. It totally deserved the Oscar that year. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment down below. What are your thoughts on Shape of Water? You probably liked it a lot more than I did, or maybe you were kind of in my realm of thinking it wasn't as great as everyone was saying it was. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I make videos Monday through Friday. I'm really on an Oscar kick, so I'm going through Oscar movies this year and also last year's Oscar movies, because guess what? Almost every single one of them is on streaming services that I have. So you'll be getting stuff like that, like Hidden Figures. I finally am going to watch La La Land and Moonlight and see who really deserved that, or if any of them deserved that. And maybe it was Hidden Figures that deserved it all along. We'll see. Okay, bye.